Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Silver and Black today, covering your Las Vegas Raiders. Heard on the Believe Network if you're listening to us on the podcast side. That's right, our new home. We appreciate you guys being back with us. Just a few days, folks. Raider Nation, just a few days until we get back to some football. Yes, I know it's camp, but this is where it all begins. The climb to Mount Kilimanjaro for all those guys on the roster, for all you fans as you get ready for football season. I have to remind you right off the top, all right? We're going to get into the subject of today's show here in a second. But don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your audio. Just look for Silver and Black today and subscribe, whether you're doing it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Man, Spotify is growing since we've been back just a few episodes. Spotify is going crazy with growth. A lot of you listening there, but a lot of you listening on Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Just look for Silver and Black today. If you know somebody who used to listen to the other iteration of the show when we were over on a different network, make sure you let them know we're back. That's right, we're back. And to subscribe. Also, if you're watching us on the YouTubes, do me a favor, make sure you subscribe there as well. Give it a thumbs up on the video. Yes, not only that, make sure you hit that notifications bell. That way, every time we drop a new video, you're going to get noticed. Doing a lot more short videos, as you'll see throughout the course of the season, so you get a little bit tidbits. And not just stuff from the show, but original content as well. So YouTube is a great place. Make sure you look for Silver and Black today on YouTube, and you'll be able to get the videos as well. We appreciate you guys being with us. Also got to remind you, Friday shows are all about you, Raider Nation. It's your voice. It's your courtroom. You get to make your case on anything I might have said during the week, anything else going on in the world of Raiders football, guess what? I'll get you on the air. You can call us 702-900-7869, or you can email us a video. I really want videos, guys. Got to see your face. Come on, put your face up there, Raider Nation. Mail at silverandblacktoday.com. Try to take it horizontally, but again, I'll take any video you send me as long as it is viewable. But mail at Silver and Black Today for the videos. For the phone calls, to leave us a voicemail, 702-900-7869. Try to keep it under 2 minutes. Want to get as many of you on as we can. So be a part of the show. I might be doing the show solo now, but you are my co-host on Friday. So make sure you get those in. So, boy, a lot of stuff going on. Of course, we're getting ready to get into camp. The Raiders, I know all of you are excited. Again, there's a lot of you out there who think the Raiders are going to make the Super Bowl. I've said already, not quite, but here's the thing I want you to understand, okay? The Raiders are on the right track, right? They're on the right track, and your expectations should follow that. This is going to be a growth year for this team, I believe, and we'll get into some things today around my verdict around the wide receiver room. That's the subject for today, because I got to tell you, Raider Nation, there's a lot of exciting things going on. The Raiders have made great improvements. We'll see how that offensive line, clearly Tyler Linderbaum's there. You have Colton Miller back healthy, hopefully. You got some things going on there. That's good. Of course, the quarterback situation, we talked about that in the last show with my verdict. Fernando Mendoza should see the field as little as possible this year, unless he has to, or unless, again, small percentage chance, but always can happen, unless he just balls out. If he balls out and he wins playing time, so be it. And knock on wood, don't want Kirk Cousins hurt, but we're not going to relitigate that argument. I had some interesting comments in YouTube this week from you guys about that situation. Some people, it's interesting, they see the headline, they see the description of the show, and immediately make assumptions and comment, and all good people. I'm not in any way being bombastic here, but I don't think you guys listened to my argument, because some of the comments clearly didn't listen, and that's what I commented back. I'm always in there commenting with you guys too if you comment on YouTube. And that's the thing that struck me was, what, did you not listen to my argument about Mendoza? And then a lot of you had examples of, for reference, well, so-and-so he played fine, and he was a rookie. Again, go back, watch, or listen to the episode so you can hear my point, because my point was the overwhelming statistics show that if you rush a quarterback along, they don't do well. That's just the way it is. Anyway, again, we're not going to relitigate that. We're talking today about the wide receiver room for this Raiders team, which it's unproven. And to me, if there's anything that's going to hold back this offense and really put a ceiling on it, it's going to be this wide receiver room. Now, we'll get into player by player here. We'll get into some of the specifics, because I know what some of you are saying. Yeah, but they signed Jalen Nailor. We'll get into Jalen Nailor in a second. But yes, Brock Bowers is a superhuman in many ways. And yes, Brock Bowers is dynamic. He can be, quote unquote, your number one. But there's a problem with that. We'll get into that. Again, I mentioned the improved O-line. I mentioned the running game. Ashton Jeanty, good first year, and with an improved interior offensive line, hopefully. Ashton Genty's going to have an even better year. But you just can't depend on that because of some of the points I'll get into. But nonetheless, let's take a look and listen to and talk about this wide receiver core, because to me, we got to go through who we have, and I'm just focusing on some players. Yes, there's some other guys in camp, but here's what this looks like when you look at the Raiders wide receiver room. Tre Tucker, of course, we know Tre Tucker. He's the de facto number one receiver. Then, of course, the big signing, Jalen Nailor. He's the strongest candidate, I think, to win out at number one for the Raiders next to Tre Tucker. Then you have Jack Bech, still unproven, the second-round pick from 2025. Then even further behind Bech is Dante Thornton Jr. Then you add in Malik Benson, newest name. He's unproven, sixth-round draft pick. Justin Shorter just went on the injured reserve. As you know, they signed Jonathan Bradley to replace him, and there's a couple other guys there we get into. And I'm not going to go way down the roster on that stuff because guess what? Those guys are all gambles. So we don't know if they're going to do anything, but certainly there's a chance that happens. But this is sort of your wide receiver room. You look at these names, I'm not impressed, and neither is the NFL. And we're going to get into, and we're going to talk specifically about these players just to give you an idea of where my head's at and where my argument is for this episode of Silver and Black today. All right, we look at Tre Tucker, right? This is the first guy. We saw Tre Tucker come on last year. He's a player at the University of Cincinnati. I saw him play in college here when I first moved here, and I like Tre Tucker. Tre Tucker is a good player. You look at his positives. He had a career year, 57 catches, 696 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He had 90 targets, and he sort of inherited that number one role, so to speak, when the team traded Jakobi Meyers to Jacksonville. He's a premier route runner, I believe, and not just a speed or gadget guy. So Tre Tucker can get lost, I think, sometimes if for people who don't cover the Raiders regularly. Oh, he's a speed guy. That is true. But that route running and whatnot, and we'll talk about why that's important in the new Klint Kubiak offense here in a minute. But if you look at that, those are the positives of Tre Tucker. He's also a veteran now, and he's got that experience that you want, especially with an experienced quarterback coming in. And even if Fernando Mendoza plays sometime during the year, or Aiden O'Connell, whatever, Tre Tucker has the familiarity with playing in the NFL that I think benefit him. Now, if we look at some of the question marks with Tre Tucker, they're undeniable, right? So you got to look at every player. And this is not an indictment against the roster or a player. I'm talking, my argument today and my verdict are going to be based on the scheme and where this team is at in its rebuild. But really, Tre Tucker, if you look at it, he didn't win the number one job, right? It's a very important distinction. He only got the number one job after the trade of Jakobi Meyers. Second, 12.2 yards a reception is an efficient number in the NFL. It's not bad. It's not great. It's very good. And so you can't look past that. But that's a number 2 receiver sort of stat, not a true number 1 guy. So he's not a guy who's doing a lot, for example, after the catch. And that's a big deal. And I'll explain that to you in a while. Also, just a reminder, Tre Tucker is in the final year of his rookie contract. The Raiders, something could happen in camp. We've heard nothing out of the great beat writers that cover the Raiders. We've not heard anything about an extension being talked about or anything that. I think the Raiders might be willing to see what Tre Tucker does in camp and in the regular season before they think about even going to him about an extension or an option, anything like that. So Tre Tucker, that's where he stands. Clearly the number 1 guy right now, based on his past play and the fact that he is a veteran with the team. Now, let's get to somebody you guys seem to want to talk about a lot in Raider Nation, and rightfully so, okay? Jalen Nailor coming over from Minnesota, big deal with the Raiders. He is a guy that had a career year last year, but we got to put that into perspective, right? Everything is relative. Jalen Nailor last year, let me first mention, the front office and John Spytek clearly like Jalen Nailor and believe he can be much more than he was in Minnesota behind Justin Jefferson, because they gave him 3 years, $30.5 million, $23 million of that guaranteed on that contract. That tells me that they're not just looking for a guy to, maybe you come in and maybe you do well. If not, no big deal. They gave him the cash up front. They believe he's going to be a guy who's going to make a difference with this Raiders team. So, that said, look, John Spytek's made good moves so far. You can't argue with him. I know year 1 was a rough, rocky road for all the kind of reasons we've talked about here on the show and you've seen written about out there. But clearly, they like Jalen Nailor, and I can understand it. Last year, career year, 444 yards, and that was behind Justin Jefferson and Addison, right? So he had 2 receivers out ahead of him. Hard for him to get snaps. Now, there's clearly is talent there. There clearly is potential for him to be more. But again, potential's potential. That's not proven viability as a true number one receiver in the NFL. And I know some of you are going to argue, well, the Raiders don't need a true number one. And there's points of that I agree with. But if you look at some of the question marks around Nailor, he's never been the focal point in an NFL offense. Okay? That's just a different animal. When you were the number one guy and you're the guy the quarterback's looking to be the vertical threat, to be the threat on the outside, that's something that he has not been. And that's all the potential he's shown. And the Raiders paying him as much as they did, paying market value, I get it. That's all based on part-time play. He was a part-time player. That's just the way it is. Whether that was fair, I understand who he was playing behind, so that's a fair point to bring up. 29 catches last year. That's a really small sample size, and that makes it tough because you just don't know. Now, again, he can come out and be a true number one. The Raiders might have struck gold. Fantastic. If that happens, then I'll be on here and say, okay, you guys were right. Jalen Nailor is the guy, and John Spytek is a master. If that happens, fantastic. And I'll talk about that at the end and how my verdict might change if something like that happens. But that's where Jalen Nailor's at. So I think he's got the potential there. Clearly, the Kirk Cousins piece there is a big deal. But the 29 catches is a really small sample size. We just don't know. Just don't know if Jalen Nailor can be a number one. We will find out as we go on. Now, let's get to Jack Bech. Jack Bech is a guy I know Raider Nation likes a lot. His story coming out of college, obviously did really, really well in college. And probably unfairly, maybe, wasn't given opportunity last year till late in the year because the whole Pete Carroll disaster, we're not going to revisit that. But he had real college production. He really handled, I think, the NFL learning curve well. And he got snap count. He raised his snap count, I should say. He played more as the season progressed. And he's good at contested catches. That's the thing I like about Jack Bech. Going back and watching one of the highlight reels I saw on YouTube of Jack Bech from last year was he has the ability to go get 50-50 balls. His contested catch rate was 55.6, which is pretty dang good. So I see the potential in Jack Bech, and he's there. Now, 20 catches, 224 yards is not a lot, right? That's what he had last year. Now, we talked about the dynamic with the team and the coaching staff and all that happened with that. The coaching staff's gone, so clearly their decision-making wasn't as significantly viewed as positive by the organization, or Pete Carroll and his staff would still be there, and they're not. So I get that piece of it. But the biggest thing here, and I'll explain in depth in a little bit as we move into the second part of the show, why this is such a big deal, but Jack Bech only averaged 3.5 yards after the catch. That is not something that's going to help him in the Shanahan Tree / Kubiak offense, which we'll get to as well. And he just hasn't been a guy who's earned snaps significantly. Like, these are, when you're in practice, when you're in camp and the season starts and obviously you're earning reps, he didn't earn reps. Now, with this coaching staff, could he, if they look at things differently and he goes out there and works hard? Absolutely. But that's where we are with Jack Bech. Then we get to Dante Thornton Jr. This one I'm not so positive about. Dante Thornton Jr., I mean, he's got the track speed. This guy is a burner. I think that's why people were so excited about him last year when he was drafted and came into camp and said, wow, this is a guy who could go out. He is a true vertical threat, the old school Al Davis speed kills. And you saw him, a little bit of his size, and you thought, wow, this is a guy, if the Raiders can hit on this guy, and clearly John Spytek, when he drafted him last year, saw that. But that playing time as a rookie, he got the playing time. He got 398 snaps. He just didn't do much with it. He just didn't show out much. He had 10 catches for 135 yards, and that's his resume. It's the lowest in the wide receiver room of the players that were coming back. 17% drop rate, to me, is the biggest concern here. 17% is very high. And you cannot have a vertical threat like that who gets open and the ball gets to him and he drops it. So the 17% drop rate, 3.8 yards after the catch, also not good. We talked about Jack Bech at 3.5, and his ability to break free and get open, clearly he struggled. Now, does that get better in year 2? You would hope. But Dante Thornton is, to me, one of those cut candidates. If he can't come out and show it in camp that he's able to improve on some of these numbers and what he was able to do, not only with the drops, but yards after the catch, and you'll see a lot of him, I'm sure, in preseason. So he'll get his chance. Then you got a problem there. Then you talk about Malik Benson. Let's move on to the rookie who comes in. Great year at Oregon last year, 43 catches, 716 yards, and a TD. And he was a real asset for Oregon. He's a guy who has speed as well. And if he doesn't earn reps as a wide receiver, this is not a guy I think they're going to cut because he does have really good special team skills as well. So I could see Malik Benson not breaking into the lineup and getting a ton of snaps at a wide receiver, but I can see him playing special teams for the Raiders, having that speed and the ability to do it. And remember, you look at some of the question marks with him coming out of college, 4 colleges in 4 years. I know we live in the era of the NIL and guys move around a lot more because of the system. Get it. Still, this is a situation with Malik Benson. You don't know. There's not a lot of supporting data outside of last year at Oregon where he did well, but he's a 6th-round pick. So he's got to come out and show something, even if it is just on the special teams, to be able to really, I think, make the roster and contribute, right? Because that's what you want. But that really is the lineup of the wide receivers you have. Now, again, the trade stuff. Oh, go get Justin Jefferson. I don't think it's the right time. I'm giving you the verdict today on why this receiver room could hold back this Raiders offense and be their ceiling in 2026. But I am under no circumstances saying the Raiders should go out and give draft capital or players for a true number 1 receiver that's going to cost them a ton of money or a ton of capital. Because I just believe that they're not there yet. If this was next year and this team wins 7, 8 games, if they're lucky, great. You're on the cusp. You need that to push you over the top. You address the other needs in the draft and you go get a number 1 wide receiver. Got it. I just don't think the timing's right. I don't think you go get a number 1 receiver. Now, every time the Raiders have tried to do that, it has not worked out well for them in recent years. And I think out of everything you have, a wide receiver is the least of your needs now, despite the fact that I'm saying it could present a ceiling for them. Now, for those of you out there who already are shaking your head, I don't agree. No, you should go get a number 1 receiver. Or, no, I think this wide receiver room is going to be better than Scott's saying. I think there's the best argument against that is number 89, Brock Bowers, right? Brock Bowers. Now, before I get to Brock Bowers, some of you will say this wide receiver, it's fine because of the system and because of the scheme and this and that, and we'll get into that. But Brock Bowers is a matchup nightmare. That's your argument, right? And it's true. Brock Bowers is a monster. Brock Bowers has every opportunity, I believe, and I'm a Brock Bowers fan. Brock Bowers has the ability to be the number 1 tight end in the NFL. He's not right now, but he has the ability to be the number 1 tight end in all of football. Let me say that up. But I will say this. Kubiak's scheme creates structural completions, right? That's what you're going to say too, arguing against me on this wide receiver room. You don't have to have a great wide receiver room because those structural completions via play action and yards after the catch, well, they don't have to be speed burners. They don't have to be Justin Jefferson. They can just be in that system. And if the scheme opens up a play, then wide receivers will be fine. We'll talk about that in a minute. And that's part of the argument. The other counter argument to what I'm saying is the offensive line is going to be better. The run game. Hey, look what Genty did last year with crap, right? Now this year, Genty's going to come out, better offensive line, especially on that interior with Linderbaum, Miller back, all of that. So they're going to be able to run the ball, and so the receivers will get freed up, and that's part of that argument. Also, you're going to bring up Jalen Nailor. Say, well, Scott, dude, this guy, I'm telling you, this guy, look what he did, and he was the 3rd wide receiver in Minnesota. Imagine Imagine Jalen Nailor now as the number one guy. He's gonna come out and ball. And that may be true. But so that's the counter argument in my own head with you guys, and I've seen in the comments and some DM discussions with the listeners out there, is exactly that. But here's the deal. Let's go to Brock Bowers. And again, I don't want comments saying, why are you a Brock Bowers hater? No, I'm not a Brock Bowers hater. I just told you I'm a fan. I think he can be the best tight end in all of football. But Bowers played only 12 games last year. His numbers in 2025 were a huge step back. There's no way to deny that. Now, was injury part of that? Of course it was. But they were a huge step back from 2024, his rookie year, when he just lit the league on fire. It was a good but not an elite year for Brock Bowers last year. Good but not elite. So there's no guarantee. Brock Bowers is a great player, has the possibility to be one of the greatest, but there's no guarantee there. If defenses can double Brock Bowers, then his numbers, those huge numbers he had from year one, are never going to come back. But I will tell you, if they key on him and no other receiver has proven to them that they're a threat on the outside, then guess what? You can't beat them. You're not going to be able to free up the full offense and really get the full capabilities that Klint Kubiak has as well. Now, we talk about the run game as part of your argument here. The run game itself, Genty has juice, but if you don't have the receivers, if Brock Bowers is double team, you give the ball to Genty and there's no threat on the outside. And again, Genty's got the juice. I was the guy in favor of them drafting him in the first round when they did. But no matter how much juice a running back has, if they start stacking the box because they don't feel there's any threat and there isn't a threat on the outside, then the running game doesn't get you everything you need because you just stack the box. And Nailor, he's just an unknown, right? I'm not negative about Nailor. I'm not pessimistic about him. Just don't know. So the argument, the counter argument, Bowers, the running game, the offensive line, Jalen Nailor, to me, they don't hold up because of those unknowns and because of the reasons I gave you. With the Kubiak-Shanahan scheme, yes, the run game is important, but you're not going to be able to run the ball if there's no threat on the outside. We saw this last year, did we not? So that is first part, my argument. Second part, I'm assuming based on comments and discussions, your argument against my verdict that this offense could hold back this team significantly, especially and I say the offense, i.e. the wide receiver room specifically. So now, why the room matters so much, because a lot of you out there are going to come back to me and you're going to say, but Scott, you mentioned it earlier. You said this Shanahan tree / Kubiak offense, structural completions, play action pass, this kind of stuff. You're right. It's there, but that does not solve everything. It's not about the quarterback actually here. Now, I did a whole show last time on why Mendoza should sit most of the year. And quarterback is going to be a big story all year. Even though Cousins has got the job outside of some massive surprise, you're going to see the national media all over this, all over the Cousins-Mendoza competition. They're going to have NFL network reporters there talking about every single day, how did Mendoza look? How many snaps did he get? And I told you how to look for that, right? In the last show, listen to the last show. You'll see telltale signs if there's even a competition at all, which I don't believe there will be, or if there is. So look and listen to that to see what I'm talking about. But it's not about the quarterback. The biggest question for this offense is going to be the wide receiver room. Yes, there's still some positional battles on the offensive line, but I do believe the offensive line will be better. The Shanahan tree offense that Kubiak is going to run, you have to have wide receivers who can win vertically, okay? They have to win vertically off play action and separate quickly. So So when you're watching preseason or you're hearing the reports out of camp in Henderson coming up starting on the 23rd, look for that narrative. Do they talk about receivers getting quick separation, the ability to get downfield quickly on the play action passes? Play action pass creates this in this offense, and you're going to have to look for that. They have to be able to do that. For the scheme to fully hit the gas, have to have it. That's why I'm so concerned with the wide receiver room. And if that doesn't happen, then they're in trouble. The current wide receiver room, to a player, has not shown it can do either of those things. Now, you're saying, but Scott, Kubiak just got there. They haven't run this offense yet. They ran in OTAs, but my point is, even in the previous offense under Pete Carroll, you didn't see receivers with a separation. You didn't see them able to create distance on play action. All of the things that are telltale signs that they can adopt this offense and make it hum like it really can. So you got to look for that. But there's a chance of it? Yes. But this is the things you have to look for. But this is why the wide receiver room, it's not just about not having a number one wide receiver. It's okay if they didn't have a big name, but if they have players that can go out, if Tre Tucker can show this, if Jalen Nailor can show this, if Bech can show this in camp, then things start to look better for this room and for this offense. So that's what you have to do. Then the other part here again is the big question. If defenses can double Brock Bowers and squeeze the run game, boy, then the ceiling for this offense is just different. It's just different, as I mentioned. So Brock Bowers is a big deal. He's got to stay healthy, clearly. But if they can't find that receiver, they're just going to struggle with it because Brock Bowers is going to see double all the time. He's going to be doubled all the time. And then you can block up the run because you can stack the box. So to me, that's why this offense needs a better wide receiver room. Now, maybe they have it. Maybe these guys go out and do it. I'm not sure. But reports out of camp that we've seen from all the usual suspects that cover the team in Henderson, we haven't seen it yet. But if we start to see reports come out of camp and we see preseason games, because remember, a lot of these guys will play significant time in preseason. If they're not doing these things, then you start to see the ceiling really start to solidify. If they do go out and they start to show some of these, then you can be a little more optimistic about the wide receiver room. So to me, that's where it stands. That's where this team is with that wide receiver room and why it matters so much. Remember, this is not a verdict against the Raiders roster per se. This is looking at the scheme, looking at the players they have in the scheme. You guys know this. Raider Nation, best fan base in all of sports, knows their football. And you know that you can have players, good players, but if they're in the wrong scheme, they just don't match. And so can these wide receiver rooms, can Tre Tucker, can Bech, can Jalen Nailor be what they think he can be clearly with the contract they gave him? Can Malik Benson be different? Can Thornton Jr. show up and be what they thought he could be when they drafted him? That's the question marks. And I think, to me, my verdict, my argument today, this is where you can say, hey, Scott's verdict was right. He was right. If you look weeks 1 through 4 of this coming NFL season, I know I'm jumping ahead. If you look and no receiver outside Brock Bowers is generating 8+ yards a catch or making defenses accountable, then really I was right. So you're going to say, yeah, Scott, you know what? Nobody outside of Bowers is doing that yards after the catch, getting downfield and making that offense. Now, my verdict will be wrong and my estimation will be off if any receiver puts up 60+ yards in one of these preseason games in week 1 through 4 and starts to find their legs. And I'm perfectly happy being wrong because that means the Raiders do better, which is good for all of you out there. So if that's the case, then fine. But this is where it stands today. To me, the Raiders offense has the opportunity to be pretty good because I like that Kubiak Shanahan system. And I think you guys are all going to like it too. You saw it last year with Kubiak as the offensive coordinator in Seattle win a Super Bowl, which is why I know many of you are excited about this offense. At the same time, you have to have the players to run it. And I think they have the running back. I think now the offensive line is solidifying and got much better. I think they have the quarterbacks. I think they have the tight end. It's just the wide receiver position is the weakest position on the roster offensively. Now, if these players can go out and prove me and prove all the other folks that know a lot more about football wrong, great. No problem. And there's a chance that happens, clearly. I'm not going to sit here and be, Mr. Negative on everything because I'm not negative about it. I'm just pointing out the players, where they're at, what they've done versus the scheme and what they're asked to do. Again, this offense, structural completions, you have to have yards after the catch. You have to be able to separate quickly from the defender. Can these guys do it? We're going to find out, right? But to me, that's the biggest concern I have. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Obviously, drop it in the comments, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, wherever, or if you're watching us on YouTube, leave the comments there. Better yet, why don't you call in? Leave a voicemail. Tell me why I'm right. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why some of you think I look like Billy Bob Thornton. I don't get that one, but you could do that. Or you could say hello, give me another subject matter. Doesn't matter. 702-900-7869 is the number. 702-900-7869. Be quick, be organized. Tell me what you got to say. Let me know, Raider Nation. Also, you can send us a video. I want videos. Send me videos. mail@silverandblacktoday.com. That's mail@silverandblacktoday. That's all spelled out. Silver, A-N-D, blacktoday.com. You can send them any way you want them. I would appreciate them horizontally just for the video experience of people out there. But I'll take vertical, however you want to do it. You might be in the lunchroom. You might be on the job site. You might be behind the wheel driving a truck. You might be at the hospital, wherever you're working, and you got to take it vertically. I totally understand that too. But however you want to send it, make sure you send it. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. And of course, Friday's show is when I get to all the calls and the videos. So send those in. And of course, you can also leave the comments as well. So thank you guys for joining us here. I want to remind you that you can also leave comments on YouTube, right? Make sure you do that. I appreciate it so much, very much, all of you out there. All right, so here's the deal. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio. Also, make sure that you do me a favor and subscribe up on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscription button, of course, but also hit that notifications bell as well. Appreciate you guys being with me. I will see you on Friday when we get to your calls. This has been Silver and Black Today on the Believe Network. Thanks for being with us, Raider Nation. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.